Welcome to the Redvee TV show, supported by Chapel House for the 2023 season. And on this week's show, we once again discuss Joey Lussick. We look ahead to this weekend's semi-final showdown, and we will start off by reminding you that this weekend, our sponsor Chapel House's world famous car swap is back. It runs from the 20th of July until the 30th of July, and with a great range of new cars, used cars, and 0% APR cars, you can be sure to find a car you'll love with Chapel House, and all come with £5,000 cash back and a free MOT for life. Now, the big news, or the news that is once again being talked about this week, is Joey Lussick and his potential move back to the NRL to replace the injured Josh Hodgson. A number of journalists have asked Paul Wellens about him this week. And obviously, Paul Wellens has said he is contracted until the end of 2024 to the Champions. And that is he is a player we don't want to lose. Aaron Bauer of The Guardian and 13 Rugby states today that Joey's representatives and the club are working together to try and find a solution, which sounds like Joey may well like to go back to the NRL if that is possible. But from our perspective, nothing really has changed except for the injury to James Roby last week. We spoke about it, me and Kev, on last week's show, and we talked about, obviously, if we were to let Joey go, it would leave us extremely short at hooker, given that Taylor Pemberton hasn't had any game time. Our worst fears were realised last week when James Roby went off with that HIA and has left us in a situation this week where Joey Lussick is essentially the only first team hooker with any experience available. You're just feeling that the timing might not be the greatest to be letting Joey go. If we get to Wembley, which we hope we do, you pretty much have to say that this deal, at least in the short term, has to be dead in the water, because we would have to find a hooker available to come in if we were to let him go, who would be available to play at Wembley. Given that most hookers in Super League will be cup tied, that's a non-starter, and trying to get somebody of the right calibre over from the NRL with only a couple of weeks' notice, it just seems like a pretty much non-starter. If we were to lose the weekend, maybe it does get re-looked at, given that we've got probably 10, 11 weeks before the end of the year, and we might look to bring someone in. But at this moment in time, Joey is a Saints player, and we hope he remains a Saints player. And given the fragility of the position in a hooker, if James Roby goes down, Joey Lussick is someone we are going to rely on in the next couple of weeks. Now, before we get on to the men, it is the ladies' women's team semi-final of the weekend. They are the first ones up at the Halliwell-Jones Stadium. Kickoff time is 11:45 a.m. The big news for Saints is that Jodie Cunningham is available for the first time since undergoing knee surgery a couple of months ago. Massive boost for the squad. And you just look at the squad numbers itself. You only have to look at our squad numbers. Pretty much all available, 1 to 17, except Leah Burke, obviously suffering that ACL injury a few weeks ago. It's probably the strongest squad that we've been able to put out this season. Also coming back into the squad is Zoe Harris, who's missed the last few weeks since being injured in the nines. And Lucy Sams makes her first appearance in the 21-man squad since joining from Wigan. Although Erin Stott, who has had a number of good games at centre, isn't available this week as she is cup tied. It's essentially the top two teams in the competition. Saints obviously only losing the one against the unbeaten York Valkyrie side in that opening away game of the Women's Super League season. But with a number of key players back, they will be hopeful of making it to Wembley for the first ever Women's Challenge Cup final to be played on the Wembley turf. And given it is Saints' 150th year, it would be quite an honour if we could get both of our teams there. Kickoff time, 11:45 a.m. at the Halliwell-Jones. So incentive to get yourself in the ground early, cheer on the women's team to Wembley, and warm up those vocal cords ready for the men's game against the Lee Leopards, which kicks off at 2:30. Paul Wellens has named his 21-man squad, and the big news is that Tommy Makinson is back in the squad after suffering that hamstring injury, which has kept him out for the last month or so, as well as Joe Batchelor and T. Ritson. James Roby, Mark Percival, obviously out with those HIAs, and Curtis Sirenen, who was in the squad last week, but we believe has suffered a little bit of a recurrence of his hamstring injury, means he isn't good to go this week. There's a couple of big decisions for Wello to make this week. Obviously, with Mark Percival out, who goes into centre? Does he look at playing Sione there? Does Will Hopewati potentially play there? Obviously, after swapping with Conrad last week, he looked really effective. Does John Bennison keep his place? Obviously, rumours are about the town that there are a number of players with injuries who we're hoping are able to overcome them. But there's some big calls to make for Paul Wellens. And it has to be said, we are facing a Lee Leopards side who have won 12 out of the last 13 games. They beat us, obviously, at the Super League fixture at Lee, 20 points to 12 earlier in the year. They are where they are on merit. It's not going to be easy. And potentially, is that what makes this game more exciting? Obviously, 5,000 Saints fans will be making the journey over to Warrington. And does it put us in a better mindset, potentially, given that we're going there and, listen, many are calling us underdogs. I don't believe that's the case. I think it's a real 50-50 tie. It's whoever's going to be up for it on the day and kicks on. I think the important thing for us is Lee are going to come out firing in that first 10 or 15 minutes, and we really need to try and dampen that fire down a little bit. Our defence this season has still been pretty much okay. It's still the lowest points conceding defence in the league. You get the impression that we might have to rely on our defence to keep a Lee side, obviously led by Lachlan Lamb at bay. They've got threats across the park. They like to get the ball out and spread it. Hopefully, and you don't like saying this as a Saints fan, but predictions are that Saturday could be a little bit wet. That might suit us in terms of the way we're playing at the moment. We're not being very expansive given the amount of changes we've got in the squad. But does that make the game more exciting? The fact that you go in there and it is a purely 50-50 tie on who is able to get to Wembley. Lee, obviously doing their part. They've sold plenty of tickets. You look at their squad, it's their biggest strength this season has been able to keep people fit, hasn't it? John Asiata, once again, linked with a move back to the NRL this week. Derek Bowman has laughed those ideas away and said he'll be there for the next couple of years. Obviously, they've got Lachlan Lamb and Edwin Apapi, who could be the key for this Lee side. Obviously, James Roby is out. So who will win the battle of the hookers? Will Apapi do what he's been doing all year long and lead that Lee side round the pitch? Or will Joey Lussick step up in James Roby's absence? The big call for us is, can Joey Lussick do 80 minutes? Obviously, he's been short of a little bit of game time this season. Saints may well have to look at the likes of Morgan Knowles or James Bell to step in at some point if Joey needs a little bit of a breather. But you do look at that Lee side. There are threats all over the park. We do respect them. I don't think anybody's going to this game thinking that Saints it's going to be a walkover for us. We're going to get to Wembley. Anybody who is a little bit stupid. It has to be said. This game, I wouldn't like to make a prediction. I think the first 20 minutes are key. If Saints can get on top and get the noses in front, that might do us with our big game experience. But yeah, nervous? You bet we are. If you haven't got your tickets for the semi-finals, there are still a number available. Obviously, Lee have got them on sale until 5 o'clock tomorrow. I think Saints are similar. You can buy them online. It promises to be a really good atmosphere in a packed-out Halliwell Jones Stadium. Hopefully, Saints have a really good record there, and hopefully we can continue that on Saturday. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will catch you after the game for the instant fan reaction. Catch you soon.